just gave you, I want to give you guys a chance to react to it. So again, Danny Ainge expected to step down as president of basketball ops for the Celtics. Brad Stevens moves into the front office full-time. And the Celtics are expected to start a search for a new head coach. Staff and coaches have been informed of these changes. Stephen A., talk to me.
I'm torn. I like Brad Stevens. I think Brad Stevens is a good coach. He came into this season. He's been to the conference finals now 3 times in the last 5 years. I understand that. But Molly and Max Kellerman and the producers, put us on the split screen, please, because I want to look at Molly and Max when I ask this question. If I remember correctly, did we not on several occasions have conversations this year about whether or not Brad Stevens was going to last as head coach of the Boston Celtics because of what a roller coaster ride this season has been and how it seemed like the young talent that you had available to you didn't seem on the same page. And as a result, it might be time for a new voice. I recall that being the case.
Yeah.
So we go through all of that. You get bounced out in the first round, albeit to the Brooklyn Nets, who most people believe are the favorites. And obviously you didn't have Jaylen Brown, and that's to be acknowledged. You had what can only be described as a suspect relationship with the Marcus Smarts of the world, according to reports and things of that nature. And you're moving upstairs to the front office? You see, it's moments like this where I get on people's nerve, particularly white America and the NBA community specifically, because I point out it's beautiful to be a white guy. It's just beautiful. You know, you're a question mark as a coach in some people's eyes, including in Boston. But somehow, some way, you moving upstairs. And the paucity of opportunities for African Americans continue to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. We talked about the coach. We didn't even get into black folks in executive positions. We got one black man with power. I'm talking about he's the final say on basketball. I'm not talking about black folks sprinkled here and there in the front office where you're in the room and you play a role in the decision making. I'm talking about one dude, and his name is Masai Ujiri in Toronto. We don't even have in the NBA a black dude in the United States that's making the final call on basketball-related matters. And somehow, some way, Brad Stevens, who I like, who I believe deserves to be a head coach on this level, a shaky season, and he's going upstairs. That's my reaction to this, Max. I actually don't give a damn about anything else pertaining to the Boston Celtics right now. That's where my mind is.
Well, I understand it.
It's just a beautiful thing sometimes.
I'm not saying that what you're bringing up doesn't have something to it. I don't know if it applies here or not. I don't know if it applies here or not. Masai Ujiri is interesting because when you point that out, the one black man. I don't understand, Max.
I'll
explain.
If what applies
Masai Ujiri, okay. There's a racial component to it that is explicitly or unfair, right? Masai Ujiri is an interesting case because I think it's a powerful one. He is the one black man who has the final say, you're saying, in basketball operations. He is not African American. He's African, and he doesn't actually work in the United States. He works in Canada. That's interesting. Maybe that's just a big coincidence, but that is interesting, and I think it's a powerful example that points out what you mean. I think about someone like Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, who's won a championship. He did it in a league where he had a big three. No one else did. And he won one championship. And I think Doc is a great coach. Let me just say that. He's a great coach. I think most people agree. And he gets the Clippers job where he's GM and coach. And that's not working out because he was a bad GM. But still a great coach. They take GMing away, but they keep him as coach. And eventually it seems like the Clippers and Doc kind of lost interest in each other. And he immediately gets a plum job. Like, who wouldn't want that Sixers job? That's a real good job, and gets the job as a Sixers coach. And here we are again saying, boy, Doc better not blow another 3-1 lead because he's getting known for that. But we know he's a great coach. Whatever the circumstances kind of make him look bad here, but we know that Doc is a great coach. Brad Stevens is known as an excellent basketball mind. Now, what you're referring to in terms of his not using pieces properly, and I don't know about that. I don't know. Or maybe losing some of the locker room. You mentioned how players can drown out the same voice after a while. He's been there for a minute. Maybe it's a personality issue with certain players. That can happen as a coach, but they still value his basketball acumen. And he was groomed by Danny Ainge, who was a successful GM. And so they can have some continuity with him in the front office. I hear what you're saying, and at times you and I are lockstep with that message. Wait, this is wrong. I didn't agree with you about Steve Nash because I thought that was a relationship thing with KD or Kyrie, and had Steve Nash been an African-American, former great point guard and everything with that relationship, I think it's possible he could have gotten that job, but that's unknowable because he's not. So I didn't agree with you there, and I don't know that I agree with you here. I think it's an interesting question you're raising.
Yeah,
but given what I just said, I don't know I agree with you.
Let me get in here quickly, Stephen A. The team that you're alluding to, don't get frustrated, Stephen A. I have information. I got information for you. Relax. You're going to have time to respond. The term is called failing up, by the way.
Molly, please don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't.
Do you want the information or no?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So this is according to Woj, just putting it out there, that Stevens has been described as worn down since being in the bubble, and that he welcomed the chance to make the transition, and that he's going to lead the search to find the new head coach. That's what I wanted to get in there.
First of all, I was wrong about saying Masai Ujiri is the only one. Raphael Stone in Houston obviously is the new GM.
That was recent,
for the Houston Rockets. That was recent. He makes final say. So I just wanted to make sure I corrected myself. It's those two. That's number one. Number two, this is why I was anxious to get back in here, Molly and Max. Because Max, to me, and no shade thrown at you whatsoever, you're making the mistake of interpreting my comments the way certain folks who are friends of mine who happen to be white have made the same mistake. When you say the racial component there with the Boston Celtics, I'm not accusing the racial component as it pertains specifically with the Boston Celtics. No more than I was accusing the Brooklyn Nets of that. No more than I was accusing Urban Meyer of that in Jacksonville. I'm fully aware that it's the relationship. It's not because somebody was white. I get that. They have relationships with these people. Sean Marks had a relationship with Steve Nash. Urban Meyer obviously has a relationship with Tim Tebow. The Boston Celtics clearly have a relationship with Brad Stevens. I'm just saying that the opportunities that were accorded to those people don't happen for black people.
Well, that's why I brought up Doc Rivers. I started with Doc Rivers.
I'm just talking about from a generic. I'm not talking about the individual organizations hiring somebody because they're white. That's not what I'm saying. I understand it's relationships. I'm just saying those relationships don't exist for black people. You can't be a quarterback on the NFL, leave the game for years, come back, want to be a tight end, and get an opportunity on an NFL squad. You cannot, having never coached on any level, and inherit a championship caliber squad with KD and Kyrie and James Harden on the way. And you can't be Brad Stevens and you're struggling and there's questions about whether or not you're going to get fired. And then turn around and you have a disinterest in coaching and then turn around and get elevated to a front office spot. All I'm saying is,
no, I understand that's your point.
For us.
Stephen A., wait, I have no misapprehension. I want to be very clear. I understand your point, crystal clear. The reason I started with the Doc Rivers example is because the examples you're using, you can say, well, that might happen for a black coach or an African-American in this situation, but unless you actually see it happen, then you're right. Then you can't use, you might say it might, well, then why hasn't it, right? That's why I start with Doc Rivers. There are examples, for example, Doc Rivers, of coaches who we just know are excellent basketball guys and excellent at what they do. And for whatever reason, it's not working out in a certain situation, so they're moved into another situation. Like Doc had the GM role taken away from him, but remained as coach. When he lost that job, he immediately got another great job because it's Doc Rivers, and everyone knows he's excellent. And maybe the Celtics feel that way about Brad Stevens. Now, what you say about relationships is true. One of the reasons for the Rooney Rule is there's a good old boy network, and if that's exclusively white, that's a problem. Some people might say, well, the good old boy network, whatever it looks like, is a problem, but certainly if it's exclusively white, it's a bigger problem. I understand the point. I'm just not sure I would apply it here to Brad Stevens. I don't know that.
I'm not trying to apply anything specifically to Brad Stevens other than highlighting that those opportunities don't happen for us. I'm not saying it happened for him because he's white. No more than I was saying that about Tebow or Steve Nash. I'm saying those things highlight to black people. We sit back, Molly and Max, and we go like this.
Didn't Isaiah?
That won't happen for us.
When Isaiah was with the Knicks, he bounced between coach and GM, and he was not having a lot of success, but it was Isaiah Thomas, and he bounced between coach and GM.
We're like struggling to find one example, and we have a million examples.
Not the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Sixers are. That's true, but the Sixers are a great job, and Doc got that 1, 2, 3.
Max, but Doc Rivers has been a coach for 20 plus years. The point is that with the Isaiah Thomas thing that you brought up, you said you could coach the Brooklyn Nets to a title with the roster that they had.
Got that.
So, what challenge is there?
Let me bring in Kendrick Perkins. Obviously, we're going to get Kendrick Perkins after the break because we went a little long with that. All right, we'll get Perk after the break, get his thoughts, obviously.